Hi, everyone. Welcome to Creative Cake Design. I'm Rachael Teufel, editing manager of Creative Cake Design, and today we have a really fun live for you. We are going to be making some cookies, and I am topping them with a beautiful rainbow marbled top that has some letters impressed into it as well. It's just a fabulous, super easy technique to do that really shows off the color scheme, and everything that we're going to be doing to it will really pop off of your cookie. So let's get started. The first thing is make sure you download your recipe. There is an almond shortbread cookie. What I love about the shortbread cookie is that they tend not to spread a whole lot. So it's a little bit easier to work with when you're making cookies that you're then going to put an impression on. So I highly recommend you download this. It also has some beautiful pictures for you so that you can see the marbling up close, so you know exactly what we're going to be creating today. So why don't we go ahead and get started? The recipe itself is fairly straightforward. I'm not going to make that on camera for you today, but just know that it's super easy, simple to follow. It actually is gluten-free as well because it uses an almond flour rather than an all-purpose flour. So I'd encourage you to try this recipe, especially if you have anyone who is gluten sensitive. It's a really lovely, delicious, rich cookie. It's so lovely. So, all right, let's head over to our cookies. So what I have here are, I've got 6 cookies laid out just to be able to give you an idea of how we're going to make these. So basically roll out your dough just like you would. They're fairly thick. This is a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch, but I like them a little thicker, especially for this particular technique, only because we're putting a dollop of buttercream on it, and we're also putting then either fondant or modeling chocolate on top of it as well. So it can get pretty thick. So you want to make sure that you have a really nice balance of cookie to icing ratio. And then this is just an American style buttercream, although you can use any buttercream for this technique. Whatever you prefer is just fine. Swiss meringue, Italian meringue, whatever you like best. And then you're gonna tip it with a round tip. Now it could be any number of round tips, everything from just the standard Wilton, I think it's a 2A. This particular one is an Ateco. This is an 806, it looks like. So just any round tip, something approximately, like the tip of your pinky. That's kind of how I gauge things, is more like things that I have handy, not to throw a pun out there, but and that's just like the easiest way for me to be able to judge. So please make sure that you've got a nice round tip. And then, like with any piping that you're going to do, always squeeze with your palm rather than your fingers if you can. Your palm has got a lot more strength, and it's going to provide a nice, even, smooth, consistent pipe rather than trying to squeeze with fingers. So just keep that as well. And always start at the back of the bag as well. And then you're going to go vertical. So straight up and down, give a nice squeeze, fill it almost to the outside edge of the cookie, and then let it go. And don't worry if it's not perfectly smooth on the top. It's just okay. We are going to do a technique here where we flip this over onto a piece of either parchment or wax paper. Works great. And we're going to squash them so they're nice and flat. And then we're going to put them in the freezer for just a few minutes while we're working on our topper. And this is just going to give us a really beautiful, smooth top to work with. Now, this isn't quite as important because we're topping our cupcakes with a piece of, I'll show you this one that's done already. We're topping our cookies with a piece of modeling chocolate that we've marbled with some different rainbow colors. It's not quite as important that the buttercream below it is perfectly smooth. So, you can see this one's my cookie was not completely flat, so I kind of compensated by giving a little bit of buttercream on one side versus the other. But that's kind of the nice thing about flipping the cookies over in order to smooth out their tops. You can add pressure where you need to. So just going to go ahead and flip this over right onto the parchment. And I just like to use a couple of fingers so that I'm not pushing with just one, and just squash it until you can just barely start to see the buttercream coming out. And you can flip all of them over first. I find that a little easier because then you're not getting your hands stuck in the buttercream. But if you just go ahead, flip them over, you'll see I'm actually using the bottom side of my cookie as well. I'm not using the tops because the tops tend to be a little uneven when they bake. Even if you've got a beautiful roll on your cookie dough, the tops of your cookies, when they bake, they get a little uneven. So I just flip them over. I use the underside. So I'll show you this one. This is the underside. This is where it was baked. So that's nice and flat. And this is the top side. So depending upon, maybe which one looks better to you too, you can make your own decision on that. And then we're just going to pop this in the freezer just for a few minutes. And so just give me a moment while I put that back there. And then I am going to show you how to make the toppers while these are chilling, and then we'll pull them back out of the freezer. So let's go ahead and get started on the marbling process. Now, you have a couple of options. You can use fondant or modeling chocolate here. If you choose to, you could actually use a gum paste, although if your guest, if you love your guest, I would encourage you to not use gum paste. Gum paste will get really hard. I have tried them out of gum paste as well. So just know that you can absolutely, make little circles. But if people are going to actually enjoy these, make them out of fondant or modeling chocolate. And basically what you're going to do is just take however many colors you think you want to make. That's how much or how many pieces you need to form here. I'm going to go ahead and just cut this because it's stuck in there. So you can do as many colors as you would like. In this case, I chose to do 6. So I'm just making 6 little pieces. Now, depending upon how many cookies you're going to make, that would also determine how much of the pieces you're going to actually need. So you can do some quick math if you'd like, or you can just kind of overestimate what you need. For the 6 little cookies, I basically, I know I'm making 6 cookies. And so I just kind of grabbed 6 little chunks just because I know that that's all that I need. But think about that when you are making your own cookies. Figure out how many cookies you're going to need. If you're making a message, then certainly that will guide you a little bit in number. If you are simply just making cookies and putting a decorative topper to it with the rainbow colors or any color for that matter, then, just kind of estimate what you would need. You can certainly do some surface area calculations if you'd like. They're not that difficult, but math is math, right? And gosh, if I can avoid it. I actually love math, but it makes life a whole lot trickier sometimes. So I often just say, forget it. I'm just going to guess, and it'll be okay if I have leftovers. You can use it for something else. So save it. Don't throw it away. All right. So then once you have your color or your modeling chocolate or fondant rolled out, for the next part, I recommend using gloves because it's a very, very messy process. I'm going to grab, just take a peek and see if you guys have questions. Let me know. I want to hear from you. I'm going to see if I can pull up my questions real quick too. And let us know if you have questions in the comments. That's why we're doing this live, so you can interact. Let us know what's going on. And let us know where you're from. Let us know if you love cookies, all that good stuff. So the next step of the process is actually going to be using colors. Now you can choose any color that you would like. It's entirely up to you. You can do 6 colors like I'm going to do today. The 6 colors of, well, almost all of the colors from the rainbow, not all of them. It's up to you. But I am an airbrush food color. This works really well for this particular technique because it dries fast and it's not going to make these pieces of modeling chocolate super tacky, which is really helpful. We want the color to get onto the surface of whatever we're working with, fondant or modeling chocolate again, and then be able to dry a little bit. Now, if you want to put it into a little container, you can do that. If you just want to use them straight as they are, that's okay too. So what I like to do, and I'm going to pull this in just so we have it, is put a little in a paint tray. And then because I am going to be using 2 colors to make green and 2 colors to make the orange, or the purple, I should say. I kind of skipped out on a couple of colors. But yeah, you can put them just in a little paint tray. And what I like about the paint tray is once these dry, you can just tuck it in a baggie and save it for later. And what's nice about that is you can reconstitute it just with a little bit of either lemon extract or high quality alcohol. So something, super, super rich. So this particular airbrush color is a very pink purple. So up to you how you want that to roll. If you want something that's got a little bit more blue to it, by all means, add a little bit of blue. So what you're going to do is just roll it on the outside. You don't actually want to manipulate this to a point that it colors the inside. So you just want to roll it on the outside. Make sure you have a paper towel handy because you know what colors you're using. You don't want to mix and match and get like brown. So keep that in mind. I am just going to reconstitute these 2 so that we don't have to remix them. But it's just a really easy way to use up your colors. And so this, for me, this means that I'm not wasting either, right? You pay a lot of money for some of the products that we're using within the cake industry. Well, any product these days, right? Like grocery store bills are kind of outrageous at the moment, but you can reconstitute these very easily with a high proof alcohol or a lemon extract, which makes it super easy to be able to, again, dry this, use it again. I'm going to be using it in a tutorial coming up after this as well to make the little heart cake topper as well. So you guys have lots of options with color scheme and what you want to do here. So just reconstituting these for the sake of showing you that save this, use it. It's great. And then if you work in order, it's super helpful just because Oh, my pupper's in the background playing. But just dip them, set them aside for just a moment, and then get all of your colors going. And again, like I am in this case, I'm not worried about how much is on there or not on there. You want to make sure that they're covered, but you don't have to stress too much because you're literally just rolling it in dye. If you have trouble, rolling it in a small space like the little paint tray, don't stress, just put it in the palm of your hand and off you go. And the only stress that you have is just mixing colors. So just be mindful of colors when you're doing that. I've got a nice red here. I'm going to roll on the backside just to be sure. I didn't go in the order that I probably should have at this point. And I'm going to throw a pink one in there too. So yeah, pick whatever color scheme works for you. Obviously, this month is Pride Month, so we're doing lots of rainbow activities. I'm going to set these aside. So you just want to give this a moment to dry. And we're not talking, multiple minutes. It's just enough to let that alcohol and color dry up just a little bit so that when we piece these together, we don't have to stress over the colors mixing. And, obviously, if we're mixing all of these colors together at once, then we're going to end up with a brown, muddy color that is not so lovely. So please keep that in mind as you are mixing your colors. Give it a moment. Let it dry. It just needs a few minutes. It doesn't need much. All right, trying to get back to my lovely camera here so I can see what we're doing. Sorry, guys. All right. Hopefully I didn't close it out and just talking to myself here. Oh, goodness. Computers. Aren't computers fun? All right. So, where is Restream? Where did it go? Oh boy. Can't find it. I think I'm still live. At least over top, I'm still live. All right. So let's see what we have here. I am a hot mess this morning, apparently, and can't get this streaming going. Okay. Hopefully we got this now. Sorry, you guys. This so many times, and I still can't figure this out sometimes. Oh, yes. Okay. I think. Are we good, Max? Okay, we're good. Yay. All right. So let's see. While these are drying for just a moment, let's go through a couple of questions. I just couldn't find a lovely screen that makes sure that I was live. So, okay. So Susan was asking about golden syrup instead of maple syrup because you're in the UK. Absolutely. You can definitely use golden syrup. Golden syrup has a lovely flavor. I actually have some in my pantry, even though it's not something that we typically find here in the US. It's a little harder to get our hands on. But I definitely have some in my pantry. I love it. It works well. It's more comparable to a corn syrup than a true maple syrup, but it's got such lovely flavor that you can absolutely use it interchangeably. And then Susan, thank you. I appreciate that. That's a lovely question, and I think super important for all of our viewers. overseas. And then Carly is asking, does the marbling process transfer well to cakes? Yes. So what I was going to share with you is that this process can be done at any size. So again, it's just the difference is going to be how much of each of these pieces you use. So again, I'm making just 6 small cookies, so I don't need a lot of product here in order to accomplish rolling this out into a beautiful marbled pattern. But this works extremely well on a large scale too. So if you're going to cover an entire cake, you just need bigger pieces of your modeling chocolate or your fondant. And so this works really great. I love using this style of technique because it is a very random marbling rather than when oftentimes when we're trying to like twist and turn and make our marbling really unique and different, it has a tendency to meld with itself and it doesn't keep that true marbling. And now it depends on the technique that you're using, but I just find that this particular technique works really well for any marble. It's just got this really unique effect that you can't quite get with a traditional marbling technique of, putting your color in and twisting and folding and doing all of that. So great questions. Thank you so much. Those are fantastic. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. So once these are pretty close to dry, it's getting there. I can tell I've got just a little bit of shine on a couple of these, but let's just go ahead and run with it because I think it's going to work great. Now, I do like rolling them into a slightly oblong piece just because they go together a little bit easier. So think about your colors and get them into an oblong. That's okay. They're going to mix a little bit, and it's okay. We just don't want to end up with complete brown coloring. Let me just put a little bit of cleaner on here. It's just alcohol. Funny enough, alcohol works great as an eraser for most things in the sugar world. So that's exciting. If you make any mistakes, you can absolutely do that. Let's do blue first. So these are going to be oblong. And then I don't mind if the green gets a little more blue. So roll them into an oblong shape first. One more rinse of the glove. Actually, I'm going to take the gloves off at this point because I'm going to roll out a little bit of white as well. So depending upon how you want this to come out, again, you can incorporate other colors here. So let's say you only had 2 colors. It was like black and red, and you wanted to make sure that you separated the two. And in this case, we've got 6, so we definitely want to separate the two. I'm just taking another piece, and I'm going with white. But if you wanted to add another color, like in a rainbow situation here, got enough color going on. But if you wanted to, you could use this particular piece. This is going to wrap up all these colors for us. But you could use this particular piece as another color. So let's say you did the black and the red here, and the white obviously works really well with it. But if you needed another color, like a yellow, for instance, would work well with those, you could use this as your third color. So be creative when you're thinking about which colors you're going to piece together, because you can come up with some really cool combinations. But this is basically the piece that's going to separate each of these individual colors. So, again, be mindful of what that might be for your color scheme. So once you have your colors and your white piece rolled out, you're literally just going to roll them up like little sausages here. And you want a little bit of that white to separate each of them. So I just kind of roll it all the way around. I know that the white is touching back there. So now I'm going to squash that, pull this one in. I probably could have used a little bit more white, but it's okay. This is gonna work good because we separate it right there. So then just roll that together into a ball and then just roll it out into a log from there. And this is the really cool part that comes into play. Um, so you can either use scissors or a knife here, but what happens, so I'm just trimming off the edges because those don't have a ton of color. What you're gonna see here, I'm gonna use my protector. Grab a regular knife. I don't seem to have my knife sitting out here, and I'm not gonna take the time to go grab it. So, but what you're gonna see is all of the colors will start to pop up now. And so you have this like really cool uh, interaction between each of the different colors. They're all separated by white and they all have white in their centers. And so depending upon which of the colors was around there, you just get a slightly different look. So grab a long knife. You're going to cut these into about a quarter of an inch or so. I probably should just get up and get it. It's going to be easier, but we're just going to make it work. I only have maybe one more time after this. So, and then you just want to lay them out. So depending upon how many, it's usually fairly close to equal to how many colors you have here. You want to separate quarter of an inch. It's going to depend on how much product you used. A lot of factors here, but just keep cutting until you've used up all of your product. All right, there we go. And you just want to unfold them and then squash them together just a little bit. Now you don't need to use any sort of uh, sticky, like no alcohol, no, gum glue, no, nothing like that. These will all just come together. Remember, we're using either modeling chocolate or fondant. And so as we roll these, they're actually going to come together really nicely. So you don't have to worry about them sticking together. They are going to stick together regardless. And then you just want to roll this out until you get the thickness that you're looking for. Use a little bit of powdered sugar or starch underneath if you need to. Now, of course, I said they would stick together, and then this one's just like, nope, not wanting to stick together. Just squash them together. Totally fine. Just make sure they go together. And if in this case we're using a small circular cookie cutter, so it's not going to matter a whole lot for us because basically each one of these is going to be our circle. But if you're doing a larger project, know that I promise you these will come together. Just overlap them a little bit, roll them out. You're good to go. So once you have your little pieces then molded together, rolled out into, it tends to be a fairly irregular shape on the outside, but it definitely comes together smooth on the inside. I am using a piece of silicone under my work surface, which is super helpful for getting your pieces off. If you don't use cornstarch or powdered sugar, just working on a silicone mat works really great. See how it comes right up. So definitely, make sure that you're prepping your surface for what you're doing. And then if you want to model this even more, so you can see these are a little bit tighter. They're a little bit more colorful. And that's just a matter of how big your logs are before you color them. So if you want a lot of color and a little bit of white, go more size. So you want to go really thin to make those small. Basically what happens is while we're going to set these a little bit, you have a really large circle that is white on the inside and just has that really small room of color, then your color isn't going to be as tightly packed. It's going to spread and it's going to be a little bit more white. If you want a lot of color, the narrower the log that you make, then when we slice it, they're smaller and they come together with more. So that's how you can change up the style of marbling a little bit, which is, really fun and a great way to be able to create something more unique and different. Now, if you want to, you can simply put your cutters down to, each of these little circles. If you want a more unique pattern, like there's a couple of little corners here that come together that are just really neat. So you could always incorporate multiple pieces that you've rolled together here to get the look that you're going for as well. So it just sort of, that's what's so cool about this particular marbling technique is you don't get the same pattern on any one of these, which is really neat. It's really different. It is just completely random, which is what I love about it. It's not, yes, we get the same sort of overall color scheme going, but it is a little different. And then you're going to go ahead and just cut out however many you need. So again, in this case, I need 6. So I'm going to get 6 very different and unique. Don't worry if they come apart, they'll stick back together. Very different, unique patterns here. So let's see. I probably could have squashed these together a little better in my planning, but I didn't, so that's okay. I'll squash this together and show you what it looks like when you re-roll it. It does have a different look, but it's still kind of cool. I don't think I'll get one more in there. Did not plan that out very well. So when you're cutting your circles for your cookies or whatever shape you decide to do, just make sure that you're planning that out well. So one option is just to roll a little bit more. And I think I'm going to do that just so I have 6 that look the same. And then I'll show you what it looks like when you mash it together and go from there. So when you piece this back together, don't throw this away. Like, I know that this has a lot of different colors going on. Try not to knead this. Normally we are told, you don't want any rough edges. You just want to squash this together. You don't want to actually like twist and turn it. You just want to push it. That way, the colors don't blend. Remember, that's the toughest part about using up excess with this is that once you roll it or once you knead it together, all of those colors are going to meld. So really it's just smashing it together and you can re-roll it. And that gives you just a slightly different look. It's not as white and pristine on the inside as this one, but it gives you a really cool, a very different type of marbling. This is the marbling that we're probably more used to seeing. This has, where all those colors are really just incorporating. And what's really neat is because of the product, this one is a lucent product. You actually see the colors from below. And of course, I always like to flip it over side I like better. You can pick which side you like best to cut your next pieces. So depending upon, what you want your marble to look like, you can create 2 different styles just from the technique that I showed you. So let's roll this one out too, because this one has way more color in it. Because these were the end pieces. So we've got a little bit more white on one side. So let's go this way. We'll see what this one looks like. It's just such a cool technique. It gives you a lot of variety and just this really neat, marbling effect. I really like this. You can tell this was the end that had all of the white. Gosh, look at that. It's just such a cool melding of some different colors together and really neat, unique effect. So I encourage you just to play with that, try it out, see what you like. If you are worried about what your colors might look like together in marbling them, you can always do a small version like what I have done and then make it bigger. So that will give you an idea as well of how much product, marbling chocolate or fondant, that you might need. So that's a good way to judge that as well. All right, let me grab the cookies out of the freezer and I will show you how to get them on. So our cookies have been in the freezer probably for about, oh, I'm guessing 20 minutes or so while we work through that. They don't actually need that long. They really just need enough time to chill so that when you peel these off, they actually come off nicely. So just to keep that in mind. And what I like best about working with uh, this piece, this is just a piece of parchment. Any cookies you're doing, right? You can also just flip this whole sheet over and peel it back all at once rather than doing it individually. So that is, I know in a lot of tutorials and things, we're showing just like one or two cookies, but that works really great for a whole sheet of cookies. So don't sit there and peel off 30 cookies. Use your cutting mat and flip them over all at once, just so that you save a little bit of time and energy. Now, if for any reason, like this one is looking a little crazy to me. It's got a lot of extra buttercream. And if we were to put our little pieces on top of it, the buttercream would show over the edge. And so what I'm going to do is just line and just wiggle a little bit. And then that'll allow me to take that excess buttercream off. Because it's cold and frozen, it comes off very easily. So if any of your buttercream is just like oozing over the edge, we just, got a little happy with our pressing or how much buttercream we put on there, it's really easy just to go ahead and take that buttercream right off. And this just makes a perfect circle. And one of I love sharing like all the things. I have a hard time just sharing one technique. So you've got a lot of techniques going on in this tutorial. But one of the other ways that I really like cutting circles for cookies with buttercream, because I'm not a royal icing fan. I don't care for royal icing very much. I love the taste of buttercream on a cookie. I actually just roll out my buttercream on a sheet of parchment, and then I cut circles out of my buttercream, and then I put them on, and then I flip them out. So, there's lots of different ways that you can do this. Don't limit yourself to just to how I'm showing you today, but I just can't not tell you because I love that technique. um, that's really when you're doing a lot of cookies at once. This technique actually works extremely well for small numbers, obviously. Okay, so one other thing that I wanted to talk with you about, and let's just set this aside for a moment. I totally missed that we were going to do the lettering. You want to do the lettering before you put these on your cookies because you're going to be pushing a lot of pressure down to get the letters to imprint. So these are just letters that I found online. They're little impression letters, and so what's really nice about them is they come in different sizes. So they have tiny little ones that are literally like a third of the letter E here, and then they have these, and they have bigger ones. So depending upon the size cookie that you're using, you can absolutely find what you need. So I like to spell things out because the last thing you want to do is put something on backwards. And don't mind me. I promise I am doing what I need to do here. It looks a little backwards, but I promise it's not. So when you press these, you just want to flip it over, use all four of your two thumbs and two fingers, and rock it side to side and front to back. Because if you don't, you're not going to get that deep indentation that we really want. And then, of course, we got to slide underneath there. If you're using silicone like I am and you're pushing, you need a little bit of powdered sugar under here typically because it's just such a high amount of pressure. So you get the letter in there, and we're just going to let that. Once you have that, you can actually put it right on your cookie. Now, the American buttercream can crust. However, straight out of the freezer, there's a change in temperature. So what happens is it starts to, it starts to warm up a little bit, but the condensation will start to form, and so it's a really easy um, attachment. You don't actually need to do a whole lot. Like if using something like a Swiss meringue, that's going to have tackiness regardless. And again, you don't need anything. But if your cookie, the icing has dried out a little bit, feel free to add a little bit of just either water. There's lots of options here as well. You can use water, you can use alcohol, you could use an extract that's flavored if you want to give a little bit more flavor to your cookie and your buttercream. You could use a piping gel or gum glue or any any number of things to attach these to your cookies. There's no wrong answer. Uh, you really are just looking for a little bit of moisture in order to accomplish that. So, all right, now I have all of them marked with my letters. We're going to go on to the tops of my cookies. Doesn't take a whole lot of pressure. They just sit on there nicely. And luckily with cookies, you can rearrange them if you have to spell them wrong. It's a little different when you're just using a black and using letters on one surface. It's not quite as easy to fix mistakes. But all right, so I've just filled out my little message. I like putting it in order because it makes me feel good to have everything in order. And then what you can do is depending upon, again, what color scheme you want to use here, you will just add in. I like to use brush color when I'm doing this because it spreads really nicely. But gel color works too, just thinned out a little bit with some alcohol, some high proof alcohol. Uh-oh, maybe that one's not open. That's probably why I have the gel sitting out. So I'll show you a little bit of gel, a little bit of either high proof alcohol or lemon extract, either one works. And then you need a tiny paintbrush for this. You don't want to use anything that has too much thickness to it because the outside of the brush, if the brush is too big, for instance, you're not going to be able to get down into those crevices. But the reason that I like to use the airbrush color, I'm going to show you with this one, is the color literally just sinks right in and you don't have to really do a whole lot of work. So get some alcohol on to the brush and just let it go. It's that easy. It doesn't require you to paint, precisely because you've got the letter already outlined. It's like indented in there and it works really well. So if you're going to fill in any of the markings on fondant or gum paste or modeling chocolate, then using this technique is great because it's really hard to paint outside the lines here, like really hard. It just, I mean, you can do it, but it's really hard to do only because that paint wants to stay right inside of the impression that's there. And of course, I say that and then I go and paint outside the line. Just one of the things that you have to be mindful of when using a liquid like this and a marbling technique is depending upon how the marbling has come together, there could be some lines where this wants to, find its way. So right here, that's a great example. This cookie you guys can see what just happened. But you can see it kind of uh, wanting to run up that little line that was created from the marbling, and a little bit up here too. Don't stress over those. You can actually come in with a little bit of clear alcohol and wipe that away. So it definitely is something you need to be mindful of, but is not the end of the world. All right, let me just finish this one. The bee did the same thing. I'll show it to you because it's actually a really cool effect. This would be really cool for like a spider web effect. So just in the center there, it had a couple of the lines from the marbling, and it just put the paint in a little bit. It's hard to be able to see that from, definitely can't see it from afar, but it can affect your final piece. Um, I can't really show you what that would look like to clean up right now, only because our lettering color is fresh. And so if I were to come in and wipe away this top line here with alcohol, it would actually just keep refilling because this paint down here is still wet. Um, it only takes a few minutes. It doesn't take long, but it's enough to, kind of change up the look of what you're doing. So that's it. Like, these are really fun, really easy. It's a cool technique to use not only on cookies but also on cakes. There's just a really fun feel to it. So the other thing I wanted to do is show you guys how I love presentations. So I want to show you the presentation of this. It's really cool. Hang on one second. I know it's been sitting here. I know it's on all of our photos, but it's just such a cool way to display your cookies. So I wanted to share that. I'm just going to fold that up so that we can get a nice image here. Um, but I wanted to talk to you about presentation a little bit too, because presentation is just as important as the items that you're creating for someone. For instance, these cookies would be beautiful just out on a tray, and there would be no issue whatsoever presenting them on a platter. I know that they would look lovely. But for me, I think presentation is really important, especially if you have an extra message to say. So whether you're writing a message on a board or you're backing it with, in this case, I backed it with a flag. So, you have a lot of choices when it comes to creating a presentation board. Whether that board is what we're used to, right? Like when we present our cakes, they're almost always on a board. Sometimes that board is visible. Sometimes that board is purely decorative. And in that case, you want to use whatever real estate you have, right? Whatever real estate you have to be able to decorate on, that's what you want to be able to capitalize on. You want to make sure that you're utilizing all of that space to be able to get your message across, or just to, have a beautiful board. So luckily, I used a really cool, fun technique here that I want to share with you. It was really easy. I'm not going to pull this off because it's just so pretty. I can't do it. But I did post a video on TikTok and Instagram on how to do it from start to finish. But basically, you want to block off. This is just cardstock used to block off whatever areas I wanted to block, and then I poured different styles of sprinkles. These are just the little confetti sprinkles. Um, place this in. Then I put my next one in and poured my sprinkles in. And then I put my next one in and poured my sprinkles in. And for me, this has just a really special memory and a special, representation. Obviously, it's Pride Month, so we're honoring all of those, of all genders, all of those lovely things. It is not, the rainbow, of course, is very representative of the LGBTQ community, but the flag itself has a lot more meaning as well. And so I thought that was really important. be inclusive and have that vibe as well. But the cooler part for me, which when I was through this, we're all about diversity, right? Like, not only do we have a color change, but we also have texture change, which is really cool. So, we have different colors and shapes representing the flag in the background, which to me was just really special. So, I think it's important that not only do we, um, again, present our cookies in a nice way, but also, be able to do something decorative behind it. Whether you're doing something decorative in edible mediums, like I have with a variety of sprinkles and chocolate chips and such, or just using fondant and covering, different areas of your board, or a non-edible medium. You can absolutely use just a piece of paper that has different images. I know that there are lots of really cool things that you can utilize. The napkins, oops, the napkins on the background here, those are literally just napkins moved onto the board that I placed in my window. Yes, that's a window. But like, use your creativity. If you are, if you yourself are planning a party and you have napkins that you're going to be using to set out as a decorative or part of the theme, you can utilize those as your board. So you could put down several napkins and place out your cookies, or you can unfold the napkins into one big piece, and you can even put a piece of like a plastic over top of it to seal it, so in case you're worried about like grease, for instance, from a cookie or the buttercream could get on your presentation board. So there's lots of really fun, inexpensive ways to utilize either an edible medium like our sprinkle or a non-edible medium like the $1.25 napkins I got from the dollar store. So, I encourage you all to be super creative with your presentation, whether it be edible or non-edible, and obviously really creative with whatever dessert you are making as well. So if you have any additional questions, now is your chance. We have just a couple more minutes. So if you have questions about the impression technique or the marbling technique or anything, please let us know in the comment section. Don't forget, if you haven't already, download the recipe for the lovely almond shortbread cookies. These cookies are not only gluten-free, but they're absolutely delicious. And they are, I wouldn't say a no spread cookie, but very minimal amount of spread. Shortbread cookies don't spread very much. So it's a great cookie to be able to utilize for something like this, where we are, putting additional decor on top of it. We want something that keeps its shape as best we can. So yes, recipe, leave us some comments. And of course, we want to see, all of your work too. So feel free to post it there. It looks like we have a great question from Carly. Does this work with other shapes easily? Absolutely. Any shape will work. I simply chose a round cookie because it's easy. Most people have a round cookie cutters, and if they don't, you can even just use the top of a glass. These are the size of about a shot glass, so you can vary your sizes based off of the glassware in your home. But yeah, any shape, square, petal, hearts, whatever shape that you would like. The key is just making sure that you have something to utilize both for the cookie and for the top. Now, you can absolutely make your cookie and your tops the same size. So mine are just a tiny, my cookies are a tiny bit bigger than the shape of the top. It doesn't matter, whatever works better for you. I would just say, if you could get the nesting kind of cookie cutters, if you invest in any type of cookie cutter, get a nesting cookie cutter, because then you have two sizes to be able to do the technique that I did. And remember too, if you're using a cookie that is going to spread just a little bit, I don't remember where oh, here it is. This is the one that I use both for the cookie and for the topper. So you can tell that it's spread just a little bit. It's gonna puff up a little bit. I mean, we want our cookies to have that little bit of lift and fluff when we bake them off. So it's not that we don't want cookies to not spread at all. We want them to spread just a tiny bit because that's what gives us our fluff and that lovely texture on the inside. So great question, Curly. Any shape, any size will work as well. So even if you wanted to do this on a really large cookie cake, so you could definitely do the same technique on that as well. So great question, Carly. Thank you. Okay. Well, I hope you have enjoyed learning about this rainbow marbling technique and, of course, an additional way to present your cookies. If you're a gold member, I hope you'll stick around and join me. It is going to be about a half hour. It looks like 35 minutes or so, but at 11:30 Central Time, I will be making this cake. This cake! My screen is not doing what I wanted to do. This cake behind me, I'll be sharing how to make the heart topper, and I'll be showing you how to write all of those lovely rainbow words on the side of your cake as well. Some really easy tips and tricks to share with you, so I hope you'll join us then. So, and for now, I hope you have a wonderful